I was walking through a major Western capital recently, and I noticed something small but really telling. It was a piece of scaffolding on a public building, and it had a temporary permit on it, dated from 2019. And it's a familiar sight, isn't it? Rusting infrastructure, flickering streetlights, and the sense that the physical world is just slowly, quietly surrendering to entropy. We talk about trillions in growth, yet the trains are late and the bridges are crumbling. Then you look at the logistics of the 2026 replace old with new policy. On the surface, it just sounds like dry economic stimulus, 62.5 billion yuan moved across a ledger. But there is a specific kind of scene playing out across East Asian industrial hubs that should give anyone pause. Imagine a fleet of trucks arriving at a residential district at dawn. By sunset, an entire block's worth of aging, inefficient appliances has been systematically harvested and replaced with high-tech, AI-integrated units. No years of litigation, no procedural theater, no political gridlock. Just a cold, calculated metabolic exchange of the old for the new, executed with the precision of a surgical strike. What struck me wasn't just the scale, but the coordination. 9 separate ministries from the NDRC to commerce moving in such perfect synchronization that it feels less like a government program and more like a biological process. While one side of the world is busy printing digital currency to inflate stock portfolios and legal fees, the other is obsessed with the mass of civilization. The tons of steel, the gigabytes of onboard computing, the kilowatt hours of battery capacity. And it leaves you with this deeply unsettling question. What if the real measure of a superpower isn't its NASDAQ index or its ballot promises, but its civilizational metabolic rate? If one system is accumulating decay while the other is systematically replacing its own cells, who is actually entering a Spenglerian late autumn and who is staying perennially green, this isn't just about trade, it's about which civilization still possesses the sheer state capacity to actually renew the physical world it inhabits.
That metabolic metaphor is.
Yeah.
It's incredibly powerful and very, very instructive.
Right. It just clicks.
It really does. Because when we talk about entropy, that natural tendency toward disorder, in a civilizational context, we're really talking about the capacity, or maybe the lack of capacity, to effectively fight that decay at scale. So this deep dive, it's really designed to dissect the underlying philosophy and maybe more importantly, the specific administrative mechanisms that enable this kind of rapid, large-scale physical renewal in one system.
And then contrast it with what we see elsewhere.
Exactly. Contrasting it directly with the administrative and legislative friction, what we call procedural inertia, that actively slows renewal in others. We're trying to move beyond just abstract economic talk.
To the physical.
To the practical, tangible output of state capacity. I mean, if a civilization can't even maintain its physical infrastructure, its physical mass, how long can its financial abstractions really last? That's the question we're trying to get at.
So yeah, we're not just looking at a stimulus program here. We are analyzing a national hardware upgrade.
Deployed with surgical speed.
Exactly. And we have a stack of sources here that really highlight this dichotomy, this systematic top-down renewal of physical assets versus the systemic, frustrating decay we see when large projects face constant hurdles.
Legal hurdles, regulatory hurdles.
All of it. So our mission really is to understand why this difference exists and, what it means for long-term power.
Precisely. And when we use a term like civilizational metabolic rate, we're consciously borrowing from biology.
It's not just a catchphrase.
No, not at all. A healthy young organism processes energy and materials very efficiently. It sheds old cells, it rapidly replaces them with new, higher performing ones. But as that organism ages or gets sick, its metabolism slows down.
Leading to decay.
Leading to the accumulation of waste and decay. In a civilization, this metabolic rate is measured by how quickly and effectively that society can replace its aging physical stock, its appliances, its vehicles, its rail lines, its power grids, with superior, modern, and increasingly greener alternatives.
And the 2026 replace old with new policy is the perfect test case for this metaphor.
It is, because it's an orchestrated nationwide intervention specifically designed to accelerate that metabolism.
It's forcing the system to shed old, inefficient mass and acquire new, technologically advanced mass all at once.
It's the ultimate shortcut to being well-informed about the tangible mechanisms of state power. We have to look at the financial commitment, the execution capability, and the political philosophy that underpins all of it. This isn't just economic policy. It's an application of advanced planning on a scale that, frankly, very few systems can even attempt, let alone manage.
Okay, so let's start with the hard numbers, because I think they tell a story about prioritization, about what really matters. We're talking about China's 2026 trade-in subsidy program, and the scale is just It's huge. It's staggering.
The financial commitment, this massive renewal, it comes from a very specific and strategic funding source, an allocation of 62.5 billion yuan. And this is drawn from ultra-long special treasury bond funds.
And that source of funding is absolutely critical to understand. When we say ultra-long special treasury bond funds, you're not talking about routine short-term deficit financing.
This isn't just patching a hole in the budget.
Not at all. These are instruments the state uses specifically to fund major strategic medium to long-term projects. We're talking about infrastructure and development that can span decades. So the commitment of 62.5 billion yuan from that particular pool, it signals that this consumer goods renewal isn't seen as some temporary stimulus.
It's foundational.
It's a foundational strategic investment in the nation's future industrial and consumption structure. They're planning for 10, maybe 20 years down the line.
And this commitment is also building on a pretty solid track record of success.
Yeah.
We can't really look at 2026 in isolation. The sources analyze the historical impact of the 2024 and 2025 versions of this program, which were massive in their own right.
Massive. They generated combined sales of 3.92 trillion yuan. That is a colossal injection into the real manufacturing economy.
And benefiting consumers. How many times?
An astounding 494 million separate occasions.
500 million transactions. Driven by policy. That right there demonstrates a state's capacity to instantaneously translate a high-level strategy into palpable economic reality for almost 500 million individual actions. But like you said in the opening, the goal this time isn't just volume, it's about precision.
Right. The 2026 initiative targets replacing old cars, appliances, electronics, but specifically with smarter, greener models. This isn't just generalized spending. It's actively driving industrial upgrading and accelerating the green transition by engineering consumer choice.
And this is where we see the intelligence of the differentiated subsidies. You have to look at automobiles, for instance. They represent the largest material mass component of the whole program. The policy has shifted away from just simple flat-rate payments to a system of proportional rebates based on the purchase price of the new vehicle. And this subtly, but very powerfully, guides consumer behavior.
Okay, so let me get this straight. If I buy a car that's just marginally better, I get a small rebate. But if I scrap my old gas guzzler for a high-end, intelligent electric vehicle, an EV,
then the financial incentive jumps dramatically.
Exactly.
So it's not just a discount, it's a reward for leapfrogging.
It is. The sources show consumers scrapping old cars can get up to 20,000 yuan, or up to 15,000 for a simple trade-in. This differentiated design, as industry analysts have noted, profoundly strengthens the policy's role in guiding the consumption structure toward green, low-carbon, and intelligent directions. The state is actively incentivizing you to buy a higher-performing, more technologically sophisticated vehicle.
Not just any new vehicle.
No, it's an engineered upward nudge on the technology ladder for the masses.
And we see that same technological shift woven into the consumer electronic side of things as well. There are expanded subsidies that cover advanced digital products like, smart glasses?
Yeah.
Smart glasses. Sophisticated home automation devices. It's a deliberate push to integrate the Internet of Things and AI into the fundamental operations of the household.
But the commitment to quality seems most rigid when it comes to home appliances.
Oh, absolutely. The sources highlight that the appliance rebates are limited strictly to products that meet the absolute highest energy efficiency standards. That's specifically level 1 efficiency.
And for anyone listening, you might be familiar with different rating systems, but level 1 is basically the gold standard. It's the most energy efficient, advanced tech available on the market.
Right. So if you want the state subsidy, you have to upgrade to the best. There's no middle ground.
And that distinction-making level 1 mandatory is what forces the industry and the consumer market to evolve instantly. You can't just clear out old, dusty stock.
You have to manufacture and sell the cutting edge. And you see it in the data. Suning, one of the major retailers, they observed that because of this subsidy structure, level 1 efficiency products became the absolute mainstream.
So consumers who previously might have settled for a cheaper, less efficient model.
They are now mandated by the incentive to choose the most advanced models.
And if we look at what these level 1 products actually are, it's not just about saving a bit of electricity.
Not at all. We are seeing the immediate embrace of AI integration. We're talking about smart air conditioners that use motion tracking to conserve energy based on who's in the room.
Refrigerators that can identify food.
Refrigerators that use optical scanners to identify the food stored inside, track expiration dates, even advise on preservation. washing machines that can automatically detect fabric types and adjust the cycle and water levels without you doing anything. This is not just energy saving.
It's an upgrade to the basic digital brain of the entire household.
And that ensures that the civilization's material base is technologically current.
This is what moves the policy from some abstract economic idea to an immediate, tangible reality for citizens. We can see this in the consumer enthusiasm, and the story of Mrs. Wu in Guangzhou is a perfect example.
Her anecdote is perfect because it really captures the psychological immediacy of the policy. Ms. Wu wasn't, waiting for a press conference or for some bill to clear 3 houses of parliament. She was ready.
And she acted fast.
At just past midnight on January 1st. The moment the policy went live, she was online placing an order for a premium smartphone.
That speed suggests the policy wasn't just announced, it was operationally ready to deploy at the stroke of midnight.
Precisely. And by combining her merchant discount with the 500 yuan national trade-in subsidy, she got a top-tier phone, originally priced near 6,000 yuan, for substantially less. And her quote was just, "Quite a bargain." It illustrates the immediate success in translating state financial power into individual, high-value consumer benefit.
The capital flows directly into technological upgrading and domestic consumption. Instantly. But there's a deeper, almost philosophical implication here when we link this policy to what the sources call the real economy anchor. And this is where we have to talk about Mr. Sun.
The retired factory hand in Shenyang.
Yeah. Yes, in the heart of the old industrial belt. Shenyang is a place that understands the value of steel, of production. And Mr. Sun's perspective, it just cuts right through the speculative nature of a lot of financialized economies.
Mr. Sun represents that segment of the population that really distrusts volatility and the perceived lack of substance in, digital finance bubbles.
Yeah.
For him, the trade-in subsidy was never just a discount voucher. He explicitly saw it as the physical manifestation of state will.
The physical manifestation of state will, that's a powerful phrase.
It is. It was proof for him that the state cared about the things you can touch, the things you can weigh, the things you can depend on.
And what specifically was he valuing? It wasn't about the savings on his monthly budget, was it?
Not at all. He was focused entirely on the material quality. When he traded up to his new SUV and his new refrigerator, he spoke about the thickness of the steel, the durability of the engine block, the efficiency of the semiconductors. He viewed these tangible physical improvements as concrete proof of national resilience.
A resilience rooted in manufacturing.
Deeply rooted in the manufacturing base, not in the ephemeral world of financial speculation. He made a very clear distinction. The civilization that builds better things is stronger than the civilization that merely optimizes financial instruments.
That contrast is profound. It really demonstrates how the policy anchors capital deployment with a tangible engineered endpoint. It's stimulus, yes, but it comes with a mandatory hardware requirement.
Which brings us to the next massive challenge.
Executing this instantaneous, massive exchange across an entire continent.
The ability to conceive of a program like this is one thing. Executing it at scale and speed is something else entirely. This required the instantaneous synchronization of demand, delivery, and administration across a vast, heterogeneous country.
So what we're analyzing here is the sheer administrative efficiency.
The superior state capacity. That's what makes this large-scale renewal possible, and it stands in fundamental contrast with systems that are dominated by bureaucratic friction and delay.
We've touched on this miracle of execution efficiency. We're talking about the seamless coordination of 9 separate ministries. Can we just pause and detail what that coordination actually involved? Because it sounds almost impossible.
It's worth detailing. The 2 most critical actors are the National Development and Reform Commission, the NDRC, and the Ministry of Commerce. For listeners who might not be familiar with the structure, the NDRC is China's preeminent macroeconomic planning body.
So they're the big picture guys.
They are the ones formulating long-term development strategies, national plans, major economic reforms. When the NDRC is involved, it signifies strategic long-range planning being put into immediate effect. Then you have the Ministry of Commerce. They handle the practical side, trade, foreign investment, domestic market operations.
Getting the subsidy flow to the consumers and the retailers.
Exactly. So you have the central strategic planner and the ministry that executes the physical commerce, plus 7 other key ministries, all moving in lockstep.
And the sources describe this as seamless transmission.
Which means that once the central policy decision was finalized, it wasn't treated as a suggestion or a topic for debate. It was instantly an operational directive. The focus shifted entirely and just relentlessly to the result.
Which was getting the money and the goods into the hands of consumers.
As quickly and efficiently as possible.
And the proof is in the rapid deployment metrics. Local authorities didn't wait around. They immediately leveraged the New Year holiday window to get the ball rolling.
I mean, think about the clockwork precision. Beijing's subsidy quota for the e-commerce giant JD.com. It sold out almost instantly after launching at midnight on January 1st. Consumer demand was so immediate that local governments were immediately requesting more allocations.
Wow.
And in Shanghai, they deployed their first round of registration using a lottery system at 8 a.m. on January 1st, just hours after the policy went live. Cities like Shenzhen and Guangzhou launched these coordinated promotional campaigns that combined the national subsidies with localized retail discounts, creating this overwhelming incentive structure.
The market response confirms this efficiency, right? I saw that Sinning, the retailer, reported a huge jump in store traffic.
A 110% increase in nationwide store traffic during the three-day holiday compared to the previous year. And the regional data can be even more shocking. In Hebei province, consumers made 133,600 purchases of home appliances and electronics.
And the value?
590 million yuan. In just 2 days. This is hyper-rapid, measurable execution of state strategy that demonstrates incredible synchronization.
And the speed. This is what brings us directly back to the contrasting model. This kind of velocity is structurally, basically impossible in highly financialized, litigation-heavy systems.
We have to analyze the phenomenon you identified earlier.
Yeah.
The decay of procedural inertia.
Yeah, this idea that the obstacles faced by Western infrastructure projects often come from the fact that the bureaucracy isn't consolidated. It's often outsourced to the legal system.
Right.
In systems with broad rights of standing, complex regulations, entrenched litigation, just about anyone can sue to halt a major project.
Under a variety of statutes.
Environmental, historic preservation, zoning, you name it.
And to ground this in a real example, you just have to look at major infrastructure projects in high-income developed nations. Sources frequently cite things like the California High-Speed Rail, a project that is essential for long-term state capacity, but it's been stalled for years.
And not because of engineering difficulty or lack of funds.
No, but by years and years of legal challenges over land acquisition, environmental impact statements, budget overruns, all driven by court-mandated delays. The famous Big Dig project in Boston is a kind of historical precedent for how costs can balloon from billions to tens of billions because of this administrative complexity and legal entanglement.
It's the real cost of veto politics being codified into administrative law. Projects get bogged down in endless lawsuits and impact studies, creating what the sources call monstrous inefficiency.
And it discourages investment.
Of course it does, because construction timelines become completely unpredictable. They're managed by the pace of the courts, not the pace of the engineers. You can't achieve massive scale when every builder has to factor in years of potential delay and endless court fees. It kills efficiency and scale.
It creates a significant diseconomy where the consistent business you need for economies of scale and construction is replaced by this inconsistent stop-start work dictated by legal challenges. And that structural inefficiency is what the Eastern model systematically avoids through this technocratic synchronization.
So let's bring that technocratic speed down to the individual level again. I want to talk about the logistics view of Lao Chen. He's a mid-level logistics coordinator in the port of Ningbo, and he's managing the flow of goods for this exact policy.
Lao Chen's story is fantastic because it highlights the operational benefit of having those 9 ministries all coordinated. By the spring of 2026, he wasn't navigating some complicated maze of regulatory filings for his fleet. No, his digital dashboard showed the execution unfolding with almost surgical precision.
So for him, the 62.5 billion yuan subsidy wasn't just abstract economic theory.
It was a tangible, physical tide of replacement and modernization.
So what did he actually see on the ground?
He was responsible for the transition logistics in a key manufacturing and shipping hub. And in a matter of weeks, he observed thousands of aging, heavy-emission diesel trucks being decommissioned.
And immediately replaced.
Immediately replaced by a new fleet of high-efficiency electric haulers. This wasn't a gradual transition managed over a decade. It was a rapid, forced upgrade of the material supply chain. And because the policy was delivered seamlessly from the top, it meant he could focus entirely on the physical logistics of the exchange, not on the regulatory burden.
Weeks, not years. That raw ability to move mountains of hardware without asking for permission from the clock, That is the practical manifestation of superior state capacity. It's how technocratic speed bypasses the decay of procedural inertia.
And this capability, as it's analyzed in the sources, is deeply rooted in the traditions of the civilizational state. This isn't some accident of recent history. It's a structure built for holistic governance over an immense scale.
We often hear this structure described abstractly. Let's try and make it a bit more concrete for the listener.
Well, it's often defined by what are called the four supers and one blend. It has a super large population, a super vast territory, super long traditions, and super rich cultures.
And all of that is blended with the modern state form.
Right. The sheer scale and diversity, a territory that's equivalent to a continent with a population that dwarfs most power blocks, it demands a specific kind of administrative capability.
And that scale requires the ability to formulate and execute these truly medium to long-term plans. We're talking 50 years or more.
Exactly. The tradition is one of a unified ruling entity. Historically, since the first unification over 2,000 years ago, the system has prioritized stability and execution. If governance fragments in history has shown what happens, for instance, when the American political model was briefly copied after 1911, it led to warring regional warlords.
The civilization risks disintegration.
That historical context drives a very deep commitment to unified planning.
And the people selected to run this unified entity are chosen through a system that emphasizes massive administrative experience, which is why they can achieve the kind of synchronization we saw with the 9 ministries.
The selection system, often described as selection plus election, it places a premium on competence derived from experience, and experience administering immense complexity. Top echelon leaders have often served at least twice as party secretaries or governors of major provinces.
And given the super large population, those roles mean they have experience administering, over 100 million people per post?
That's right. It's a level of complex managerial experience that just doesn't really exist in political systems where the primary pathway to power is through fundraising and televised debate.
So the sources suggest this results in a highly competent leadership,
capable of long-range thinking and strategic execution. Their system is oriented towards prioritizing the overall purpose of democracy, which they would define as good governance, stability, and prosperity, over merely procedural mechanisms that might lead to short-term political instability or administrative gridlock.
So it allows them to think more holistically, avoiding the short-termism that can often plague systems driven by constant election cycles.
It does. They're analyzed as operating as a largely holistic interest party, capable of pursuing hard, necessary reforms in the interests of the majority. They can focus on Mingsen, which is the hearts and minds of the people, something deep, stable, and lasting, rather than just mini, which is fleeting public opinion that can change by the hour.
And the 2026 policy requiring this massive national overhaul is a perfect example of a long-term strategic move that prioritizes that Mingsen, that deeper sense of well-being, over immediate political popularity. So now we can connect the superior state capacity back to the academic concept that grounds our whole discussion: social metabolism. This framework really helps us understand what this large-scale physical renewal is doing, not just to the economy, but to the health of the state itself.
Social metabolism, or socioeconomic metabolism.
Yeah.
It's defined as the set of material and energy flows that occur between nature and society, between different societies and within societies. It's really the biophysical basis for the self-reproduction and evolution of a society.
So a simple way to think of it is the controlled transformation and circulation of physical matter that humans use to sustain their existence.
Exactly. And the tangible structures we inhabit, the buildings, the roads, the appliances, the vehicles, these are the society's physical structures, are called the in-use stocks. And they are constantly built up and maintained by these metabolic flows.
So if the flows slow down, or if the society becomes unable to process its waste and replace its aging stock,
the civilization enters a phase of metabolic decline. The 2026 program, therefore, isn't just economic. It is a calculated, massive, deliberate intervention to accelerate that material flow and directly combat civilizational entropy.
And this is the heart of the dichotomy we've been talking about. On one side, you see the accumulation of decay in aging Western infrastructure, what sources analyze as entropy increase and thermodynamic resistance, where maintenance and replacement are just endlessly deferred.
And on the other, you see a model that mandates active, systematic renewal on a massive scale.
It's the active fight against the second law of thermodynamics, which dictates that everything tends toward disorder.
It is. This systematic renewal shows a commitment to never letting the stock become too old, too inefficient, or too technologically obsolete.
And we can see this through the eyes of Ming, the environmental engineer in Chengdu. She works at a massive material recovery center, so she is literally on the front lines of this metabolic exchange.
Ming's description of her job is fascinating. She views the program as the kidneys of the system. She works with this industrial-scale efficiency, systematically breaking down and recycling the materials harvested from the millions of old cars and obsolete appliances that the trade-in program requires consumers to surrender.
What does she mean when she talks about fighting industrial decadence?
For her, industrial decadence is the failure to recycle, the failure to process. It's the accumulation of obsolete, inefficient mass. She views the old refrigerators and ancient polluting vehicles as industrial waste, that if you just let it rot in a landfill or continue polluting the air, it actively decreases the vitality of the civilization.
So her center is making sure the old steel, copper, and plastics are systematically fed back into the supply chain.
To keep the material base young and efficient, she's ensuring the system filters its own waste effectively.
That's a commitment that goes way beyond mere economic stimulus. This systematic, aggressive stance against the natural tendency of things to fall apart, it demonstrates a commitment to maintaining national vitality.
Through continuous physical iteration, it's about securing the physical health of the civilization itself.
And this commitment ties directly back to a concept we discussed earlier, minben, the priority of people's livelihood, which sits at the core of the political culture.
The political philosophy mandates that policies have to deliver tangible benefits, material and non-material, to the people. The system is evaluated not on the elegance of its theoretical ideals, but by what it delivers on the ground.
So the 2026 program is a direct application of minben.
It's an undeniable delivery of minben because it ensures a modern quality of life for ordinary households. It gives them subsidized access to smart, green appliances and new EVs, which directly improve their daily existence and their environmental quality.
It's like, instead of holding a poll every Tuesday to ask people what they want, the system focuses on the stable, long-term needs, cleaner air, safer, smarter cars, modern, efficient appliances, regardless of whether that specific policy is trending on social media that week.
It creates a physical ladder of progress that everyone can climb. We could describe it as the intergenerational upward mobility of infrastructure and equipment.
That's a great way to put it.
Every few years, the policy ensures that the entire nation's stock of hardware, the collective apparatus of daily life, is demonstrably smarter, greener, and more efficient than the last generation. This simultaneous elevation of the national material base is the key deliverable of a state that's focused on long-range strategic execution.
It's the constant renewal of the physical tools of modernity, making sure the hardware keeps pace with the software of national ambition. That really seems to be the ultimate expression of a high civilizational metabolic rate.
And as we conclude this deep dive, we really have to synthesize the strategic implications of this profound focus on manufacturing and physical mass. When external analysts assess national power, the focus is so overwhelmingly on intangible markers, GDP percentages, liquidity, speculative valuations.
Right.
The civilizational state model, as embodied by this 2026 policy, it fundamentally challenges that financial hollowing out.
The sources are very clear on this. The real measure of power is in the physical output. It's the hard currency of power. We have to look at the tons of steel produced and deployed, the gigabytes of onboard computing developed and utilized, the kilowatt hours of battery capacity created and distributed.
This physical mass, this tangible inventory, it represents a far more potent indicator of civilizational vitality and enduring power than a temporary rise in a financial index.
And the financial commitment, that 62.5 billion yuan, is meticulously channeled into producing physical things.
Within the automotive and home appliance industries, it forces a tangible, engineered endpoint. This is a direct investment in what's being termed new quality productive forces. Real strength is derived from expanding and modernizing the material base of power, not merely from optimizing financial flows.
And this approach also provides a very definitive definition of what they would call true environmentalism. It's not about slogans or, theoretical communiques from international meetings.
No. True environmentalism, in this view, is the hard, gritty work of mastering the entire new energy industrial chain. This means control over the process, from the mines that produce the raw materials,
to the factories that synthesize the batteries,
to the vehicles that use it, and finally, to Ming's recovery centers that recycle it.
It's built in the manufacturing base.
That's where it's built. The commitment is to actively fight entropy by replacing the old with the new, forcing technological evolution and efficiency improvements through the entire supply chain. This is environmentalism achieved through mandated material renewal, which stands in stark contrast to systems where environmental policy often gets mired in legal obstruction and procedural theater, leading only to project stagnation.
At the end of the day, the 2026 Renewal Initiative is just a massive, unified demonstration of strength and civilizational priority. And the dichotomy is striking. While one side of the world focuses its administrative capacity on inflating digital currency and managing litigation,
the other is obsessed with the physical world, forging and replacing more advanced gears and chips and upgrading the physical hardware of its population.
the focus is on ensuring the nation's physical assets are perpetually current, efficient, and technologically advanced. The future, the analysis suggests, belongs to those who can continuously renew the real economy, the very flesh and bone of modernity.
The capacity for continuous large-scale physical renewal, this systematic increase in civilizational metabolic rate, that is the ultimate test of underlying health or long-term viability. The civilization that masters its own physical world is the one entitled to discuss the future.